So you took this, your new set of skills, your qualifications and helping people, and you were on the front line.
Absolutely. Well, it so happened that we'd heard that there was to be coal bed methane testing at Barton Moss, and didn't know anything about fracking. And I sort of did a crash course in research. It was absolutely horrified, and looking at the damage that had been done in Australia and America, and went down to Barton Moss to the protests there, and got involved in walking the chucks.
That's where you walk slowly and stop and go in.
What you do is you actually do a slow walk down the lane with lots of other protesters, most of which were local people. People had never, ever done this before. And so doing a slow walk to walk the chucks into the sites and then later out to the site. So there's a lot of people there that will actually live at the side of Barton Moss Lane in tents during winter. And it was a very harsh winter there, and that had never done this before, and that were getting quite ill. And I'd started by just taking a few bits down like elderberry syrup, and went on Facebook one day and somebody said, a lot of people are really sick. Do we know anyone that can help? And I thought, yeah, I can help. So I packed up all my dispensary in boxes, went to this big tent and opened a clinic there, and saw lots of people, but soon realised that if I was using my own herbs, which were very expensive to buy, I'd be bankrupt within a few weeks. And so applied to Lush. And Lush,
they make soaps, don't they?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're an amazing company. They're an amazing ethical company. And they provided some funding for me to get a dispensary. And there's about 3 other herbalists came on board. And there was Danielle Kay, Zoe Naylor, Zoe Blackwell. And we opened this clinic in this tent one very sort of cold day in January, and we went in there. We had people sleeping on couches, we had to move stuff, and we had this constant stream of people, sort of children, all day. We even had an LA Times reporter came in and interviewed us. So we were in the LA Times that evening with photographs, and it was pretty full on. So we were going down there about twice a week.
Were you managing? So you're still practicing and working outside of this, and then in your free time, go in and help
absolutely,
everybody.
Because contrary to popular belief, people thought that it was just people on benefits went down there, but most people were actually working. And juggling life around being able to go down there. So we were down there sort of running clinic, dispensing medicines. I even dispensed a medicine to one of the BBC reporters as well, there who wasn't feeling very well, that was out there reporting. We stored our herbs in a coffin, can you believe?
Right.
They had this big coffin in the sort of this geodome, and we didn't have anywhere to put them. So we had them all sort of hidden in there.
I was going to say, not many people are probably going to nick them, are they?
No, they're not. It was like a sort of a fabricated one, not a real one.
Yeah.
And we put the herbs in there. And, we just dispensed the medicines, and it was busy, and we were there sort of dispensing as people were protesting. We were giving them warrior drops to calm them down, and cough medicines, and just anything we could, fireciders, anything we could to keep people healthy, because people were very sick. They were having chest infections, urine infections, skin problems, athlete's foot. And, that sort of 10 months at Barton Moss was just incredible. People said we saved their lives, I'm sure it wasn't quite as dramatic as that, but...
And this went on then? You did this for years, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. When Barton Moss finished, we went to Upton in Cheshire. We supported the protests there. The Yorkshire camps. There was other herbalists sort of took the lead down south as well at Horse Hill. And so with a lot of the protest camps, there was herbalists, not just me, that was supporting them. One herbalist, Zoe Naylor, even lived on site. We got a herbal caravan that 38 Degrees sort of paid for. So we had a caravan on site. And that sort of continued. And even when sort of there was a lull in the anti-fracking movement, we carried on sort of doing those clinics to some of the homeless squats in Manchester and to the activists there.
I read this part of your story, and that really touched me then.
Yeah, we did.
Because you then carried on and help the homeless as well, which is...
dispensing fireside vinegar around people sort of in Manchester, or going into the squats and making sort of like foot baths, for people with athlete's foot, or big batches of cough medicine for people, and skin creams. And
I went into a squat, it was about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and there was a guy on the street, and he had like a staff, he looked like Gandalf, and he had this big hat on, and a lot of people were moving away from him, and my nature was to move towards him, and I wanted to talk to him, and he was walking on the canal in just the other side of Salford. And I started talking to him, and he said, well, come into my squat, and have a look. And so he took me inside, and I chat with him, and what a beautiful man. And there's other people in the squat that weren't necessarily as nice as he was, and I think he had to tolerate the noise and behaviour and such. But this guy wasn't harming anybody, had lots of interesting stories to tell, and some people see them as a blight on the community when they're in the squat and everything. He just probably had some mental health problems, didn't exist very well in the normal, community and world, and having a job and in that sense, but a beautiful soul. I felt very lucky to have spent a little bit of time with him. I
met some really nice people. I mean, some of the activists that were, taking over the buildings and taking homeless in were just such amazing people. And one sort of really young woman in particular, she was only about 18, was coming home from college, and she was living out on the streets in tents and helping people build community. And other people as well that were just giving up their lives to take people into squats to help them come off things like spice, alcohol, and making sure that there was food there, there was somewhere to sleep. And they were under constant threat of eviction. They were being evicted, and having to find somewhere else. We went to some of those evictions to sort of support people as well. It was an incredible experience. I mean, one of the stories I've got was I made some cough medicine. And it was a great teaching story for me. I made some cough medicine. A lot of it was from my own garden, from marshmallow and sort of elecampane I had growing there, and took some bottles in. And, a couple of weeks later, this guy said to me, I love that cough medicine. He said, are you one of the Wild Sisters? Because that's what we called ourselves, the Wild Sisters. I said, yeah. And he said, well, that cough medicine was amazing. It helped me come off spice. And I was like, what? Wow. It helped you come off spice? And he went, yeah. He said, as soon as I took it in my body, he said, I felt it working, and I felt the love, and, it helped me sort of come off spice. And I went home looking at the ingredients, looking at the prescription, thinking, what was in it that helped him come off spice? Was it the licorice, the marshmallow? And I couldn't work it out. And then I realised that it was about love. It was about the plants from a garden that were actually going into a homeless squat.
Made with love.
That was made with love. And he felt the love from the plants. Because when I pick, plants, I do put a lot of intention in. Mm-hmm. And that was what he felt.
Important,
and it wasn't any ingredients. It was just the fact that somebody had cared enough to actually make a medicine. And that there was those plants in there and those plant spirits that had gone into somewhere like this and were actually doing their job. Yeah.
We always said...
It taught me.
If we go up to Manjushri, the Buddhist temple we go to in the lakes in Ulverston, the food always tastes incredible. I mean, incredible. And we talked to somebody who made it, and we just couldn't put our finger on it. And it was just because it was made with love. Yeah. When that food's made, they'll put an intention. They'll meditate and they'll put an intention into the food, and it can be the same ingredients as somewhere else, and this tastes just beautiful.
It's the same when you make medicine as well. When you work with a plant and you give that intention to that plant you're working with and tell it what you want it to do, it works so much better. An example is there was one of the guys at Preston New Road, and he'd been dragged, the protest, he'd been dragged across some aggregate. And his girlfriend had put a picture on Facebook of his back, of the wounds on his back, and it was quite a mess. And he'd been to hospital and he'd got a bit of iodine and he was in a lot of pain. And so I went out sort of on the fields. This is like ordinary fields in sort of Radcliffe, and went sort of to pick some herbs. I picked daisy and plantain. And I asked the plants, and I said, can you do this for me, for this man? He's protesting, he's protecting the land. Can we make a medicine that is going to help heal him? So I made some daisy and plantain salve and put a little bit of myrrh essential oil into it and took it up to PNR. and his girlfriend put it on his back, and it was quite a mess. I mean, I'm an ex-nurse. I've seen a lot of sort of wounds, and you could see this one was starting to get a little bit infected, and it was sort of quite deep. And I went back about 8 days later. There was complete healing new skin and a tiny bit of scab in the corner.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that. Anybody heal so quickly. And for me, it was working with that plant and stating that intention. You know, this is how our ancestors worked. They didn't just think this is a chemical that I'm going to put on this. They worked with the spirit of the plant, and we have that documented in some of the ancient texts.
Even with modern science, where you have the placebo effect, if two people take a tablet and one's got certain chemicals in and one's just a sugar pill, but they believe it's about belief, I think, and intention. And if they believe that's going to make them better, science now has accepted that intention, that belief that it's going to make you better, it'll work the same.
Yeah.
So that alone, then that supports the theory of, if I'm giving you something, I intend it to make you better, despite irrelevant of the ingredients, which are going to help and everything else. But the intention's really important. The belief and the intention are huge.
They are.
In the healing process.
I always think as a herbalist that you're an intermediary between the plants and the medicine of nature.
I like that.
And a person. And you're the one that is matching the herbs to the person. And if you can do that consciously, and you can do that with love and with respect as well, because herbal medicine doesn't always come with respect, you know, and that's just absolutely, you know, accelerates the healing. I've seen amazing healing when you're working with protesters, because it's almost like Mother Nature knows
she's helping your cause.
Yeah, that people are giving up jobs, they're living out on the land, they're putting their bodies away, they're giving up the freedom. And when you start to match plants and people, something amazing and miraculous happens, and it does.
Yeah. Well, that goes down to the fact that we're part of this ecosystem. We're part of nature, not above it. As human beings now, a lot of people think they are above nature and they try and control it, and they use it for their own means instead of trying to control their environment, which is what they do now. We need to be part of that environment and exist within it rather than trying to change and control it. You know?
Yeah. So. Well, we are part of, you know, the earth. We are the earth. That's what we're made of.
But like an ant or a bee or a flower, we're just another ingredient in that recipe in nature. Yeah. And we're not this intelligent being that's in charge. It's just nonsense, absolute nonsense. It is
nonsense, it is. You know, and, you know, working with nature this way, it is about respect, because, I mean, it's not about seeing plants as commodities that you take, because we're in this taker culture. You know, it's about a reciprocal relationship, you know, and honouring the plants. They work so much better when you do that.
Exactly.
You know, for us. So, anyway, so I've seen, I forget where we diversified from now, Patrick.
You were helping people that were fracking, who were protesting. And I was going to mention the fact that your partner, Pete, got arrested.
He did, he got arrested in Bolton, actually.
Right.
What was happening was that what we decided to do, we decided, what was happening was that people were trying to target the suppliers that were supplying... you know, sort of like, you know, the fracking pad, they were making the fracking pad. And so they were doing sort of like protests, you know.
So you mean like bringing in the concrete and the installation of the enabling works?
That's right, yeah. So people were doing slow walks with the things coming out, which was matched by people doing slow walks and protesting coming in. So we're trying to, you can't stop that process, but you can delay it.
Yes.
You know.
You can be highly inconvenient.
Absolutely.
And cost money.
Yeah. So, you know, we were actually on our way to Preston New Road, and we'd seen sort of like the protest in Bolton, and Pete said, I'll film it, because he's a photographer, filmmaker. So I dropped him off, drove into Tesco's car park, you know, in Horwich, parked the car, went across the road, and he was in cuffs.
Yeah. And
it was like...
Well, he should have kept his clothes on, shouldn't he, Edwina?
Well, yeah. Yes, I mean, what had happened was that a lorry, you know, right at the end of protesting, he was filming and taking photographs. The lorry had just he just got caught by a lorry. So, which is, you know, maybe it was just one of those things, but he'd actually got arrested. And, you know, it ended up sort of in the nick for about sort of 11 hours, interviewed by counter-terrorism for doing nothing more than taking photographs.
Counter-terrorism, it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
It was, it was all for 11 hours in there. And he was convicted of obstruction We were told...
You just got to find it or something.
Yeah, you got to find, but he actually had, criminal record because of it.
Yeah.
And the sad thing was that I'll talk about more sort of, stuff here. But when we actually went to the magistrates' courts, we were told that it wasn't the magistrates could deal with it. We had to actually have our own anti-fracking judges at the courts in Manchester.
Why is that?
It was just political decisions.
Right.
So nobody could be tried by just ordinary magistrates. It had to be their own sort of judges.
It's just a protest at the end of the day, isn't it? Like lots of other protests.
I mean, Pete was only there for 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So we did appeal
it.
Yeah, we
we
appealed it and won, And
you did?
It was actually,
fantastic.
it went through the appeal with Bolton magistrates.
Yeah.
2 Bolton magistrates who said, well, we don't really understand why you were convicted in the first place. It's not obstruction. So, that's by the by, but, bless him, it was quite a traumatic
if you've not been in trouble before, dealing with the courts and the police can be a bit frightening, can't it?
Well, he had a complete clean record, to having something like that. And it was very traumatic for me, but it was quite funny, actually, because we were at Bolton Police Station and he was inside, so lots of people, I didn't really know the procedure, so I just drove my car there waiting for him to be released. And lots of people joined me.
Yeah.
Lots of anti-frackers and other people. So we had this big vigil outside waiting for him. So what happened was people had music, there was loudspeakers there, there was dancing as well. Police thought it was amazing. Yeah, there was a rave outside. So the police inside said to Pete, we've never seen anything like this. This is just like an ordinary Bolton police station. We've never seen anything like this before. And there was a couple of Asian lads came up to us and they went, what's going on? So we said, we told them, and they were shouting, free Pete, and putting it on Twitter, free Pete. And, so Pete came out to this sort of like mass of people. Police thought it was hilarious, actually. Yeah. They were quite impressed, that there was this going on outside. They were really nice with him, actually.
You've mentioned your kids a couple of times. Do you want to say hello to them? What are your kids called?
Zoe.
Yes.
Zoe Eliza Hodkinson. She's a folk singer. She's got an album out.
Oh, okay. I didn't know this. How old is she?
She's 23. She lives in Glasgow.
Right. So, say her name again, Zoe.
Zoe Eliza.
Okay.
Is a stage name. So she's performed at the Met. She supported the Peat Bog Fairies.
Right.
A few years ago. There. She's an amazing folk musician, singer, songwriter. And my son he works in Daventry. He's a design engineer, mechanical engineer. He worked for Williams Formula One for a year as well.
How old's he?
He's about 27 now.
27.
So he works for Cosworth now. But he worked for Williams Formula One for a year.
Well, I'm not surprised that you've got children that are successful, but doing something that's quite exciting. It sounds like they're following the passions,
Yeah, they are, yeah. I mean, my daughter works in a vet now as a receptionist. She's got a master's, but she's not been able to find the work she wants with lockdown.
Yeah.
So,
well, working with animals is fantastic,
Yeah.
So, Edwina, I'm going to talk a little bit now about certain herbs. I can see you getting excited, yes?
Yeah, I love herbs, so, as you can tell.
You make your own ointments and salves and things like this, and I'm sure you're down to tell us about it. And also, I think now is a good point to maybe talk about mugwort.
Oh, well, I'll talk about herbs generally.
Okay.
Sort of. One of the things I am really passionate about is the herbs that grow in this land. And I think when you talk about herbal medicine, or even people who sort of, use herbs at home, we often think about herbs from exotic places, from shamans sort of in somewhere else.
Peru and all this.
Peru, or things that are, from other cultures or that are grown in specifically botanic gardens in this country. But what we have forgotten is that we're surrounded by herbs and medicines, You just have to go outside your back door and they're there. And we have this whole culture of really sort of powerful, amazing medicines that, we hardly sort of use. And as a herbalist, one of my journeys in herbal medicine has been to really focus on native medicines, particularly those that grow around us. And talking about mugwort, this is going on to the sacred in
I just
medicine.
think of Hogwarts whenever you say
Hogwarts,
mugwort. Yeah.
Mugwort. There's lots of warts at the end of plants, and things. But all wart means is something that's sort of a medicine, really. It's an ancient name for something she's medicinally. So mugwort is one of our really sacred medicines from this land. And it's named after the goddess Artemisia because the Latin name is Artemisia vulgaris. So that is a goddess of women and children. And so you can imagine from that name itself that, this is quite a special herb for women. And it is. It's a great women's herb, for regulating periods and, for sort of PMS and, right through that sort of journey that a woman has, from sort of childbirth to everything. But this herb is so much more. It's a digestive herb. It's a great herb for anxiety and depression. But what people don't realise that it's also the same family as the Native American sage. The white sage we get. That we used to smudge with.
Yeah. Well, we have that in our house. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is our version, same family. When you actually smudge with it, it does the same thing. Beautiful smell. It's used in moxibustion, in acupuncture, and it's right here in Bolton in the northwest. It grows alongside the lanes, the M62, the M6, and it is amazing, amazing herb, which I always think everybody should know about because, for those that like to use white sage, why not use our version? It does the job so well, and it does it better.
And so, what does mugwort treat? What's it good for? What does it do?
Well, medicinally, it's great for, it's a herb of journeys. Yeah. A herb of sort of like women's journeys. So, great for things like period problems, regulating periods, anything to do with the menstrual cycle. It's also good. It's a bitter, aromatic bitter, so great for supporting digestion. Has been used traditionally for things like bacterial infections of the guts, sort of worms, supportive of the liver. It's good for depression, anxiety. It's good for things like fever management as well.
So, when you said, for example, when we had the pre-show chat that it opens, maybe it can lift the veil into the realms.
Well,
how does that happen?
It's a shamanic herb as well. So going back to the sacred uses, it's good for clearing space. It's good for clairvoyance, opening the third eye. People use it for divination, creating sacred space. So you can imagine this is a herb that you might want to use when you're doing sacred work, sort of magical work, shamanic work. It's a herb of journeys. It's a herb of dreaming. When people, one of the things that people notice when they start to work with mugwort is your dreams become more lucid.
See, I'm interested in that aspect.
That you start to remember those dreams. And of course, dreams are those times in which you can touch the divine, the sacred, which you can learn things. You can you can connect with the other world.
Yeah. And I think dreams are massively important in untangling the subconscious. A lot of things that the human brain can't deal with and process, we deal with in dream state.
Well, mugwort can help you do that, but also people think that lucid dreaming is about nighttime dreaming as well. It's about daytime dreaming. So for a lot of people, when you start to work with mugwort, either when you smudge with it, when you drink it in tea, tincture, or even just having it about you, and when you start to work with intention, mugwort can help you access sometimes those deeper thoughts. It can help lift the veils, increase your perception of sort of the sacred as well. It can help you go deep. It can help you sometimes work with those questions, those spiritual questions you have.
See, something that's quite amazing to me as well is, and this is to do with belief and intention, what we talked about, like making things with love, etc. When I did Cambo, as I was doing Cambo, I started to feel the effects of the Cambo before I took the Cambo because I was preparing my body, my mind for doing that. And the shaman that I did that with said that it's very common to feel that because you have that intention and the ceremony takes place and you start to feel it before you've even ingested it, because you just need to be around it or in that space.
Yeah, with mugwort being in that space. But one of the ancient blessings is, do you remember mugwort? That she helps you learn that which needs to be made known. Her ancient name is Una, which means the one, the mother of all herbs. I'll have to find. I should have brought the verse with me. Actually, it's pretty.
You should have
awesome.
Brought some mugwort with you. I would have happily
it's
tried
a great
some of
herb,
that.
because the thing with mugwort, it doesn't make you high. It doesn't make you hallucinate. It's just the sacredness of helping you remember what is. It helps you access knowledge, helps you access your own body's wisdom, helps you access something else, that knowledge. And ancient people knew that because it was in that verse. It's about helping you remember stuff.
See that little monologue there where you're explaining it and stuff, I'm fascinated, and it's something I think it sounds amazing. So.
I think I've got it I actually wrote it down for one of my Facebook posts. And I know this is not just an experience that I've had and that Pete's had, it's an experience that lots and lots of people are having with mugwort, because it's there, and ancient people would have known about this experience with mugwort. It's about that connection to the sacred, but the sacred knowing as well with mugwort. It's such an amazing herb, and what I notice is that, because I've done lots of tastings with mugwort and smudging with it, and how when people taste it for the first time or smell it, it's familiar. People say it smells familiar, it feels familiar, it tastes familiar, there's a familiarity about it. And it's as though it's this ancient knowing within us that knows about mugwort. It's something that's deep and ancestral, but it's about here. That's the beauty about mugwort. It's not about going to the rainforest or anywhere else. It's here, and it's on our own doorstep.
With this mugwort, you mentioned the menopause and with women and other things. You did a wise woman group at the Harmony Hub in Chorley.
That's right,
So, because I've been to the Harmony Hub a lot, and I've also done a session there. I've taught there. I know Liz Whittle very well.
Oh, Liz is amazing.
Yeah. And I didn't know, but you obviously frequent there as well.
Yeah, I started running a menopause class.
This is the Wise Woman, is
Wise Woman Rising. Because for me, people talk about the menopause as though it's something that is really to be dreaded, that it's a time it's all downhill from here, it's a terrible experience. And I always like to think of the menopause as something which is about an ancient transition between a woman from her fertile years to her wise woman years. And like all ancient rites of passage or transition, it's not always easy. It has its challenges because your body's changing, you're changing.
I keep saying, I'm nodding like I know, but obviously I don't know that exact experience. But I know about getting older and changing.
Yeah, it is. And it's about a transition, because we're told in our culture that we're supposed to stay young and fertile forever, and there's this transition, this other third part of a woman's life, which has really been sort of downplayed. We're told to fear, it's been despised, and the menopause and that time which comes after is a really amazing part of a woman's life. It's a time when we enter our wisdom years, when the bullshit filters sort of like drop, when we are able to go into a different space. I mean, you think about killer whales, and killer whales, when they have a very similar sort of lifespan to us, and the female killer whale goes through a menopause. Not many animals do that, or creatures do that, but the killer whale does it. And when she gets to the menopause and she ceases to be able to be fertile, she swims right to the front of the pod and becomes the leader, because she has the experience to actually help her pod survive, and to lead them to the food, to know how to teach the young, and the males in that pod support her. And for me, that is what happens to, human females. We should be the ones that are swimming to the front, not swimming, but they're going to the front of our communities, and that are becoming leaders. Because we have experience in life, we have care, and a lot of us do things from a heart-centred place as well. We have the interests of our communities at heart. And, this is a time of a woman's power. And this group that I was starting to run just before lockdown, we've done about 3 sessions, is in working with herbal medicine and skills in actually be able to look at ways of dealing with the challenges of the menopause, because it can be a very challenging time for women.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of things like hot flushes, night sweats, anxiety.
I know about the hot flushes. Not me personally, but I've been around that, yeah.
That's it. The list goes on and on, you know. I think people have documented about 38 symptoms of menopause. I think it's sort of more, you know. I think it's being able to stand in your power sometimes and say no, and say that is bullshit, I'm not putting up with that anymore. You know, for me, that's one of the symptoms of the menopause that a lot of women have. And so it was trying to find ways to help women navigate through this, not just in working with herbal medicine to help with the challenges, but also being able to step into that power and to use, because I'm a shamanic practitioner as well, being able to use that journey work, which is part of those wise woman skills, is to be able to access the otherworldly realms to bring back our own wisdom.
Yeah. I like the way you say it. When you go through the menopause, then some of the positive effects of it are this bullshit filter.
Yeah, the bullshit. Yeah, you're able to take bullshit, you know, or not put up with bullshit, or to say no, or to not really be so self-conscious in a way that holds you back, because you know that you are going out of that state of being sometimes in the home and, you know, bringing up your families to actually going out there in the world and wanting to make a difference.
Certainly from my experience, women that have been through the menopause and as they get a bit older become much wiser.
Yes.
Much wiser. They gain great wisdom.
They do, and you're able to say no and stamp your feet and say, no, this is not right. This is not good enough. This is not what I want for the future of my community, for my family, for my children. And just digressing a little bit, going up to Preston New Road, a lot of the protests there was full of older women who were stamping their feet and saying, no, we're not standing for this anymore. You know, we're not standing for fracking. We're not standing for these political decisions.
Well, I think they start to think about the next generation more than other people.
Yeah, you stamp your foot and you say, no, we're not putting up with this. And I think that's why older women and postmenopausal or menopausal women have become so scary.
Well, they can be.
Contemporary culture, because we're saying no, you know. We want a better future for our communities, you know. So this was the basis of Wise Woman Rising, being able to help women to stand in their own power, to look at skills to navigate, you know, this transition, but to also look at their own wisdom and knowledge. And as a shamanic practitioner, I think there's a lot of wisdom that can be gained for all of us to be actually to work with our own deep intuition and deep knowledge.
So, because you've mentioned the shamanic practitioner, now maybe tell us a little bit about breathwork and gaps. I don't even know what gaps is.
Well, breathwork, as part of my shamanic practitioner training, which was at Lendrick Lodge in Scotland, part of that, I mean, our tutors up there were really quite keen on getting us to sort our own shit out. And so you're not sort of projecting your stuff onto others, which quite often we do, don't we, even as healers. And so we spent a whole week learning how to breathwork practitioners, and it's about using the breath, which is quite a fast, rapid, shallow breath, to actually dislodge some of those traumas and things that we have in our bodies and actually move them out. And so we were doing a whole week of dry breath work, which was quite powerful in doing quite a fast breath, sometimes for about 20 minutes, half an hour, supported by people into dislodging and moving some of those traumas, and wet breath work as well in a pool of 40 degrees underwater with the snorkel on.
Because if you do breath work for long periods, you can have altered states of consciousness.
Absolutely.
You know, you can have a very powerful experience and shift negative energies that have been trapped for years. There's amazing things can happen.
It's powerful, is breath work. Absolutely powerful. I mean, I knew that during my training that we had the choice to do this week, or it was a different week in the sorting your own shit stuff out. And ended up doing this one. I was quite sceptical about it, you know, until we did the first breath work. And that was the most amazing journey I have ever done in my life. I was there at the well of life, you know, at the base of the world tree, at the well of life. I thought I was going to die that moment. I was at the world tree, and at the bottom is Earth's well, you know, which is the well of all creation. And, I was there with it and I saw the light, the tunnel of light, and I thought, oh, shit, I'm going to die. That's it. And I thought, no, there's a few nurses in here. If I stop breathing, have a cardiac arrest, somebody's bound to jump on my chest. So I let myself go with it. And it was a magnificent, amazing experience. And I didn't die, obviously, because I'm sat here.
So what's GAPS?
GAPS is gut-altered psychology and physiology. So, remember how we talked about the microbiome?
Yep.
Yeah. GAPS is all based about sorting your microbiome out in your guts and healing the gut. Because when you have a damaged microbiome and damaged sort of gut, you can get things like leaky gut and all sorts of bacterial dysbiosis and imbalances, which can affect the rest of the body, from autoimmune diseases, digestive problems, the list goes on and on. It's about working with the microbiome and healing the gut for health. So it's used a lot with children with autism and people with mental health problems, and it's something that is used around the world. Yeah. So I trained as a GAPS practitioner probably about 10 years ago. Maybe
now tell us about the pagan full moon drumming circles that you have.
Right.
These outdoors, it's done outdoors, isn't it? You go up in the moors.
It is,
and do
yeah.
It. And one's just been a few days ago.
Yeah. Well, about 18 months ago, one of my really good mates, Dorothy, had a bit of an experience, and we thought maybe that one of the solutions for that experience was to actually go on the moors drumming. So you've got two sort of women at midlife, mature women with drums on Holcombe Moor drumming for full moon. And it was really sort of great. It was very sort of cathartic. And there's a woman with a camera, a strange walker, that was filming us, thinking like, who are these two nutters? So when we wrote about it on Facebook and we said that we just felt really right drumming for the full moon, me and my mate Dorothy, lots of people said, well, can we come? So next full moon, we had more people drumming. And the next full moon, more people coming and bringing food. So all last summer and right to this year, we had up to about 100 people bringing the kids, bringing food, sharing food, bringing the drums, rattling, dancing. We had tribal dancers. We had people convening, joining us on Holcombe Moor.
It'd be really powerful if you got 100 people, even if half of them are drumming. It's going to be really powerful, isn't it?
It was powerful. People were saying it was amazing. It was changing their lives. They were having experiences, and this was continuing all sort of through last year up until January, when we decided that we wanted to do one to support some of the fires in Australia and link in with lots of other groups who were trying to do healing. And so we had about over 100 people. When we pulled up in the car park, me and Dorothy and Pete and a few others, we were like, what's going on here? It's like a mini festival, and there must have well over 100, 150 people. People just walking up with the families. I think have they come up for our drumming?
And this is your baby. You started this with two of you.
Where's me and Dorothy, yeah. And, we were up there and with like about 150 people, 100, we didn't even count them. We had a fire pit up there, we had lots of food, kids. Somebody brought a didgeridoo, somebody was doing Aboriginal chanting, somebody had the rain sticks. And we created this powerful energy to link in with others in trying to stop some of the fires. It was an awesome, awesome experience. Then after that, there was Hurricane Katrina. People were still going up drumming, in Hurricane Katrina, and then lockdown came.
What struck a chord with me is that you did it on the full moon, because the moon has a massive impact on my life, and I follow the cycles of the moon very closely. And when there's a full moon or when there's a new moon, I can feel the difference in my energy, the power really, what I have in manifesting it. It makes a massive difference to me.
Well, it does if you think about the moon that can move the tides around the planet. What's it doing to our body?
Our body's 80%, 85% water.
Absolutely.
And so this is where the expression, obviously, lunatic comes from, where in the asylums many years ago, they used to have to double up on staff whenever there was a full moon, and they used to call it water on the brain. But obviously, the moon's gravitational effect on the planet when there's a high tide is greatest when there's a full moon, and hence the greatest effect on the human body as well.
Absolutely.
And, this is where the tales of werewolves came from and everything else as well. And I believe even still to this day, they have to increase the staff on duty, on the shift, on a full moon.
I've heard of things like that.
Yeah.
I've also heard as well, I know anybody that does biodynamic gardening, is you work with the moon. So you're planting seeds at a dark moon, because when you've got a dark moon, that energy goes into the earth. So it's great for plants that are roots or seeds. Or when you're picking, you're picking your potatoes or your carrots, you've got more water.
Yeah.
In the carrots, dark moon. And then in the full moon, the water actually comes up into the plant. So it's a time traditionally when people pick the fruits and picked above ground things.
Yeah. The moon's gravitational effect is greatest on anything that's got water in it. It's going to get pulled on those nights, isn't it? So
absolutely.
Plants, humans, the planet, the tides, everything.
Yeah. I mean, when you think to our ancestors and for native people around the world, those moons have different energies and have different names as well. I mean, the one that's just gone is like, a corn moon. And they all, you've got your different names. You've got like wolf moons and pink, strawberry moons.
And a moon waxing and gideous and all these different expressions as well. Yeah.
So you've got, apart from the phases, you've got the different energy, because this is how, you imagine for our own ancestors and Indigenous people that are outside more, you're more in touch with the moon and you can see its effects on you. You're watching the phases. I mean, even things like women's menstrual cycles, are very much tuned in with the moon.
Yeah.
That women are more likely to, to either bleed or ovulate at a full moon, usually sort of ovulate at a full moon and then bleed at a dark moon. So you can imagine in, the past, whole tribes of women who live close to the land following the same menstrual patterns according to the moon. So, women can still do that now if they're sort of like, opposite, they're out there sort of in the moon.
Yeah.
So, for us sort of drumming, it's a powerful time, and it was a powerful time to build community as well, get people out there on the land. There's no better feeling than being stood on Holcombe Hill and watching a full moon rise in a clear sky. It lifts your heart up. And then working with the energies of those moons, because those moons are affected as well by the different zodiac sign they're in. We've just had a Pisces full moon. So people might have seen that Pisces full moon, they might have felt more emotional. One of my friends who's got a book out called Arwen Clement, she's just written a little book about your birth sign, and that cycle of your moon, so where you were born. If you're born under a full moon, then you're more likely to be affected by a full moon in a positive way. But if you're born under a dark moon, that full moon might be more challenging.
Yeah.
I'm a full moon baby. I was born.
I don't know what I am, but I know what I'm affected by. So I'm assuming it will,
Yeah, I was born on a full moon.
Virgo
full moon. So for me, full moons are really quite buzzy times. Yeah.
Edwina, the course you've been running now for about 6 years, I believe, the hands-on herbal course with another herbalist. Do you want to tell us a bit about that? Yeah.
Well, I've always been a very sort of hands-on kind of sort of herbalist and love working with the land. And it's Danielle and I always wanted to do a course. She was a herbalist I trained with, which helped people connect in a very hands-on way to the land and to make their own medicines. So we set up Weeds and Wild Medicine, which was a course that ran over...
Weeds and Wild Medicine.
Yeah.
Weeds and Wild Medicine.
Yeah, because both of us love weeds. We really wanted to sort of change people's perception about what we call weeds, things that people...
There's a stigma attached to them, isn't there? We think they're a nuisance and they can be an amazing healing plant.
Absolutely. I mean, people want to get rid of them, eradicate them, want to put all chemicals on them, and yet these are our native medicines. And so we wanted to change the perception of people, because... that people have, but also be able to empower people into being able to identify and make their own medicines. So the course we were running up to lockdown was over 8 months over the seasons at Offshoots, which is it's a beautiful permaculture garden there. And we were operating from doing our course from this little cabin with a wood-burning stove and working with a small number of people, getting them to harvest medicines, doing herb books, getting them to harvest things and make their own medicines, and had a tremendous amount of fun. People were making creams and tinctures and infused oils and cough medicines, and had such a good... People talk about weeds and wild medicine with such affection. Yeah. And then lockdown came. Yeah. And we were about 3 days off starting with our new group and had to cancel it. So, which was really sad for us, because it was one of those courses that we just love. We get such a vibe from as well. Yeah. And it was like, well, what do we do? We want to still be able to connect people to medicines around them especially now when people are on lockdown, but also for us as well, because it was part of our job. And so within about 3 weeks, we had to learn how to take this course online for 5 months. And how could we do something that was so hands-on, online?
Yeah, it's got to be a challenge.
It was a big challenge. So in about 3 weeks, learned how to build quite a complicated website, to do Zoom calls, videos, how to make videos. And so we went from having about 13 people on our course to over 90 worldwide.
In a funny way, there has been some benefits from things that have gone on.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we were noticing how people were just absolutely yearning for something that was so connected to the land during lockdown, that was helping them to feel better about things that were happening, to feeling more empowered. And so what we created was we've done like a 90-minute Zoom call we have with people where we do a herb tasting and help people to connect to the key herbs of that month, working with the seasons. But we also have lots of how to do videos as well. So, over the last 5 months, and we're just right at the end, we've just got our hedgerow one coming up, teaching people how to make medicines from the herbs around them. We're doing online virtual herb walks, as well as something that was an interactive Zoom call that people could do a herbal tasting, pick out the herbs, what was healing about it, to talk about things.
Yeah. I have a feeling after people watch this video podcast, there's going to be a lot of people that want to get involved and try what you're doing.
Yeah, well, we've got our last one of the sort of 5-month one, which is the hedgerow medicine one, which is working with things like elderberry and hawthorne berries and, some of those medicines of the hedgerows, which are teaching people how to work with, which, anybody can subscribe to, even though it's the last of the 5-month one. They are all standalone.
Yeah, so you can just join in anyway. You can pitch in.
So we subscribe. That's about 25 for sort of each workshop. And we have a members page on our website with lots of information on and links to videos, and we record the Zoom call. And then we're going to be starting.
This lockdown's nearly made you a millionaire, hasn't it?
Yeah, far from it. So yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of hard work to do the course.
I imagine, yeah.
We've put a lot of us into it. I mean, it's been a lot of filming, editing, doing handouts.
Peter's a photographer, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
So was he been doing your filming?
Yeah, Pete used to be a filmmaker, corporate filmmaker, years and years ago. And he's got his master's in photography, so we've got some beautiful photographs on there, beautiful films. But we're just about to start autumn, winter, weeds and wild medicine, with a little bit of a different vibe, because we're not obviously going to get a lot of those plants out on the land. So what we decided to work with was supporting people during autumn, winter. So we're looking at things like, seasonal coughs and colds, how we help boost people's immunity, with things from the kitchen cupboards, looking at some of the herbs that people can buy and some of the supplements, how they can help, how to use them, how to not use them, how to work with coughs. People get lots of different types of coughs. What's the best thing? How can they make their own cough medicines? How can they make cough sweets? We're looking at making things like fire ciders, and also with the course we're looking at things like how to help people stay calm, some of the herbal medicines that you can use to sort of help emotional well-being.
So you have the 2 websites. You've got one which is weedsandwildmedicine.co.uk.
Yeah,
and that's predominantly your workshops, is that right?
Yeah. Weeds and Wild Medicine is the one that Danielle Kay and myself jointly run, and this is predominantly about this course. And I've got my own website, which is Edwina Hodkinson Herbalist, which is how people get in contact with me as a herbalist, but was also my own courses, because I was running lots of my own courses and herb walks before lockdown.
So somebody could get in touch with you and have a consultation with you via your own website, if they've got an issue and they want advice or help.
Yeah, they can make an appointment to see me in clinic or via a Zoom call, which, now with the measles in lockdown, I can get to see people with social distancing measures and guidelines at the clinic in Bolton. So that's always better, because quite often people contact me and they think they've got a problem that you're going to be able to offer a solution up with one herb, or advise them what to get. And herbal medicine doesn't work like that, because with herbal medicine, it's quite holistic and you're trying to work with a whole person. So it's always good to have a consultation so you can work out the best combination of herbs for somebody.
Yeah.
And quite often people are on drugs as well. So it's good to look at those herb-drug interactions, to keep that prescription safe, and effective for somebody.
Yeah. So Edwina Staniforth or Hodkinson.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
You are very welcome. It's been a privilege to be here.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
And I can't believe the diversity of things that we've chatted about. It's been great.
Everything's relevant, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like what we're going to do at the end of this show. We normally put some links at the end of the show, and we'll put links to both your websites, and you also have a YouTube channel, is that right?
Yeah, we do as well. So when we started with lockdown, me and my partner Pete started to do a series of very short videos, which were about connecting to the land and local plants. So we did one on nettles, cleavers, hawthorne. We had a series of videos that people could just watch at home that were very briefly about that plant, but something that they could make. And we were surprised by how many people were watching them. I think it was something that people needed.
Yeah.
Just to see somebody that was doing something other than sort of like lockdown, and the current pandemic, that was connecting them to what was in their garden. And we knew that people were on lockdown and weren't able to go very far. So we wanted to look at herbs that were good for people to connect with on the daily exercise walks or in the garden that they could make something from. And the wild garlic one, so many people were making wild garlic barges. And we actually did a demonstration of a recipe that it was really exciting to see and pleasing to see people do that, and drinking nettle tea for the first time and juicing cleavers and just making things.
And your primary social media channel is Facebook, is that right?
Yeah.
So there's Facebook, you have a YouTube channel, you've got the two websites. Say the names of the websites again for me.
There's weedsandwildmedicine.co.uk.
Yep.
There's Edwina Hodkinson Herbalist.
Yes.
.co.uk.
And I'm going to put links for all those at the end of this show in the text afterwards. And also, you've supplied us with some pictures of some local herbs, and we're going to do a little montage at the end of the show in the extras as well. So there we go. Again, Edwina, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and I've loved every minute. Thank you.
I've loved every minute being here, actually. Thank you.
Okay, folks, I'm going to leave you with a quote from my book, From Pills to Peace, and this is by me, Midnight McBride, and it's quite a simple one this week. It's the more you have, the less you see. And when you start to acquire things, own things, compile things, and own stuff, material things, imagine piling boxes up around you, and slowly but surely you become less connected to your environment and nature. So the more you have, the less you see. Sometimes it's good to get rid of everything. Just go a bit of wild camping, Edwina, which is what you do. And go and spend some time in nature, maybe on a retreat, disconnect from everything, and just spend some time just being. You can buy my book on Amazon. You can also get it as an audiobook in Audible and on iTunes. You can catch me on the radio every Monday night on Salford City Radio 94.4 FM with the Mind, Body and Spirit Show, midnight till midnight. You can visit the website, midnightmcbride.com. You can also go to Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram and Facebook. You can subscribe to this channel, and there's 2 new shows out every week on Midnight McBride YouTube channel. And then 3 days afterwards, they automatically go out on Podbean, Spotify and iTunes as an audio podcast. Whew. See you the same time next week. Shalom.